What is going on, everybody? GoofyRhexxi here, and hope everybody is doing well, guys. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about the most valuable teams in Marvel Strike Force. I made this video quite a few months ago, and so much has changed. This was like back in May or something like that, right? When I made this video, so many things have changed. So definitely want to make an updated video here and talk about some of the teams, or the teams that are definitely the most valuable ones in the game, encompassing a lot of things here, not just one-dimensional teams, but teams that can be used in various game modes that you definitely should be investing into. I did also try my very best to include the early game meta in these decisions here. So when we start off the list, we're going to work our way down with the top team and then work our way down to the lesser team. But either way, it's still one of the most valuable teams in Marvel Strike Force. But it's going to be a fun list, guys. Let's have some fun with it. Let's start right now. All right, welcome back, guys. And of course, if it's your first time coming to the channel here and you would like to see some more Marvel Strike Force content, then consider hitting that subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell so that you know when my videos do go live, and then check out the links down below, guys. Want to join my Discord? You can also follow me on Twitch, where I stream Marvel Strike Force and Future Revolution content on a weekly basis. Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, those links are down below. My Patreon link, which is another way to support the channel, is also down below as well. And of course, Amazon coins. If you're looking to save some money here on your Marvel Strike Force in-game purchases, then Amazon coins is right for you. But let's jump into the list, guys. The first team, probably gonna be the most obvious one on the list, right? Is gonna be Infinity Watch. So Infinity Watch right now, probably the best team in the game right now. We know that Weapon X is coming, but we don't know exactly where they are going to land in the meta. We probably think that they're going to be most likely the top team right in the game, but I do think that Infinity Watch is still going to outclass them in certain areas of the game, like Arena, and I still think that they're a better raid team. So for that reason, I still do think that Infinity Watch is going to be a top tier team in this game. You also have two characters that are on this team that are part of the early game meta. So you have Gamora, who's currently in the Blitz store, very free to play, accessible. Nebula has an early game mode where you can farm her next, or early enough node where you can farm her Nexus 4-6, and those two characters together, Gamora and Nebula, are absolute dynamite of a team. So for me, definitely this team is the best team in the game. Has probably what you would say, at least right now, probably the top tier legendary to go after, the first mythic legendary in Adam Warlock, although he may have fallen short of our expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, he still is one of the top characters in the game, in my opinion, just because, at least top 15 character in the game, just because of what he's able to do. And of course, with new warriors in those Mystic Doom raids, Adam Warlock does become pretty strong there as well. Phyla-Vell is in the Arena store, Arena Orb, I should say. Not a favorable place for you to get her, but if you can get your hands on her, that's pretty good. Moondragon right now is the only character that you really have no way of really getting her, other than getting lucky with some ores. But I still think that this team is a top team in the game, will be a top team in the game for quite some time here. So definitely for me, comes in as one of the first teams, comes in as the top team that you should be investing into here. Now, the next team on the list for me, I think, is the second best team in the game, maybe the third best team when Weapon X comes around, but Secret Avengers. I think that they're just super strong, man. They're a top tier raid team. Even without Kestrel, they're still a top tier team in the game. With Kestrel, they become an extremely dynamic option. A lot of people use them, right? I use them with Nick Fury and also Kestrel as a war team. Also use I know some players are also using Nick Fury and Kestrel on their raid team. I actually use Gamora instead with Kestrel on this team, and they perform quite well. Even if you're not currently doing Doom raids, which obviously that's where a lot of these characters are being used right now, is in these Doom raids. Even if you're not doing Doom raids, for your Ultimus raids, for some of your Greek raids, they are still a dynamite option for me. There really is no game mode where I think that they don't do well, right? They're great in war as well. I can beat... I can't be heroes for hire with them, but I know that there are some players who can be heroes for hire on in war with, like, throwing in Kestrel and Silver Surfer. I know that there's some comps there that can be heroes for hire right now. I have not been successful. I haven't tried it actually, but I know that there are some people who are using this comp. But Captain Sam is just an absolute animal. Sharon Carter does a lot of damage, a lot of control, and Maria Hill is a Haas when it comes to her heals with those deflects. This team is very strong, very, very, very strong in my opinion. Arena meta, probably not a great area for them, but I do think that at high investment, once again, you could probably use a comp with like Doom, Castro, Silver Surfer. That could probably beat over time the Infinity Watch team as well. And I've also heard that they're pretty good in Dark Dimension. So Dark Dimension 3 Global was really kind of one of the worst game modes or areas to go through, but I heard Secret Avengers is actually a pretty good team there, and I've actually used them in some of those Dark Dimension 3 global nodes, and they did quite well there as well. Now, they're not as easily accessible for players, right? So Maria Hill, Captain Sam, Sharon Carter, there's really no way for you to get them right now, but considering that there are going to be a team that you're going to need to unlock, the legendary Omega Red, then there's going to be some ways for you to be able to get some of these characters here, but of course they're legendary unlock in the first pass, so it's going to be probably quite challenging for early game players. But if you are here, if you got an opportunity to get your hands on these characters, and I definitely say that they are well worth the investment because they are a multifaceted team. All right, so next team on the list for me here is going to be the Astonishing XMen, and they have become easily one of my favorite teams in Marvel Strike Force to use right now. They're so much fun. A well-built Jubilee, Beast, Bishop, they can carry the team. When I was doing my Doom raids, 1.0 Doom raids, I actually had Iceman and Kitty Pryde at gear tier 12, and they were running through these Doom raid nodes quite easily. Now we've started to do Doom 1.1 a little bit more, so I had to bring up Iceman and Kitty Pryde up to gear tier 14 to be able to get through that content. And listen, it was well worth the investment. Kitty Pryde and Iceman, I think, sort of get the short end of the stick when it comes to how we review them as characters. They are not slouches. They're pretty damn good on the team. Iceman with those slows, being able to ping. Also, his stun lands now at gear tier 14, guys. His stun actually lands at gear tier 14, that special ability. And Kitty Pryde being able to clear those positive effects off the enemy team, giving offense down, the disrupts. I find that her abilities come in quite clutch. Once again, a multifaceted team, right? They're great in war as well. Yes, they're great in raids. They can do your Ultimus raids. They're great in Doom raids. There's in the Gamma raids, I think beta raids. I've used the Astonishing XMen as well. There are really solid team in my opinion, and they're also great in war. I use them a lot to counter Doc Ock Sinister 6 teams, and I also use them to counter mercs every now and again, depending on if I don't have another team that I can use here to go against those merc counters. But really good team. They're not as easy accessible, but they are easier. Kitty Pryde is in the raid store. Beast has a node. Bishop is in the war store, which is extremely crowded, but if you can spare some extra war store credits and you have Jubilee already, definitely well worth trying to get some shards for Bishop. He's a massive dominant force here, so definitely want to invest into him. And Iceman also has a node as well where you can farm him, so pretty good, like I said, easier accessible team other than Jubilee, who you do need to unlock who's a legendary character, but really multifaceted team that I like very much here. Next team on my list, probably one of the teams that you're already thinking about here is New Warriors. So New Warriors is kind of new, but even though Deathpool is still bugged, we're expecting that today in the patch. Well, it's probably depending on when you watch this video. There's supposed to be a patch today, but Deathpool, although she is bugged, still is a beast in these raids. Using her in Doom raids right now. Lastly used her in these alpha and the beta raids in the Mystic lane, those Mystic nodes. Oh my goodness, she's absolutely a monster, man. Her and Doom together, dynamite. And then Cloak and Dagger together are probably the best tandem in Marvel Strike Force, in my opinion. Yeah, we have Bishop and Jubilee. Yes, we have Longshot and Shatterstar, but Cloak and Dagger, they just do so much damage together. There's a lot of control, a lot of these debuffs, the blinds, the defense downs, although it's 3 random that you can get from Cloak, but the blinds, the defense downs, the disrupts, the slows, the bleeds, the piercing damage that bypasses armor. It's stupid. They're stupid in this game right now. They do a lot of damage. One thing and Cloak, he dodges a lot too, so actually works towards him being able to survive quite a bit here. Now, outside of raids, Deathpool does tend to fall off a little bit for me. I don't think she performs as well outside of war, but Cloak and Dagger, they actually do perform quite well. Not war, outside of raids, I should say. Deathpool doesn't perform as well outside of raids, but Cloak and Dagger, they perform quite well outside of raids. They're just a dynamite dude. They're just nasty, man. They just destroy. They're also Hero City characters as well. So if you have an option of being able to get these characters here, if you're looking to do content like chapter 7, once you get to level 70, being able to do Heroes chapter 7, they are Hero City characters. So you have an option of using them there. They have the city tag, so you can also use them for block party. With also having the city tag, you can also use them for some of the challenges that are there in the game too. And I've seen that they're also a good dark dimension option for your city nodes as well. So you got some options there with Cloak and Dagger that I think are really, really, really good. I wish that their release method was a little bit better. I think the Strike Pass, the Blitz, it's just really wonky and weird. But overall, I do think that this team is a top tier team in the game that you definitely want to invest into. And although not great outside of raids, they are still a phenomenal raid. Well, Deathpool, I do think that Cloak and Dagger are really the stars of this team, in my opinion. So definitely worth in the investment. Now, the next team on this list for me is kind of fallen off when it comes to the late game, but I still think that they're still a top tier team, and it is the Symbiotes right now. Like I said, they're falling off very, very late game. Doom 1.1, they kind of struggle a bit. I heard that you kind of got to get them to like ISO Blue 3, level 3 in order for them I'm working on that right now, but the blue ions, they're really a struggle. I find that the crystals are actually like easier to get, but the ions, man, the ions are absolutely a backbreaker and a killer right now. So I really wish that there was a campaign where you could probably farm or just some other ways for you to be able to get some of these blue ions here. I know that there's going to be an event that should be starting for Wolverine and his costume where we should be able to get some more ions there. But Jesus, man, we really need a lot more ions, blue ions, to be able to fill out these teams. But although they're falling off very late game, there's still a good Dark Dimension 3 option. There's still a good Dark Dimension 4 option. Yes, there's Heroes for Hire. Yes, there's New Warriors. But I still do think if you're looking to do these Doom raids, they really are your only option that you have available right now. I know that there's rumors that the Thunderbolts are going to be a bio team that's supposed to be coming to Marvel Strike Force. But as of right now, this is the team that you have available to you to be able to do those Doom raids. So I do think that the Symbiotes, for me, still a top tier team. What I don't like about them is their lack of damage to be able to do the very late game content, right? I don't like that. I think that if there was just additional character, maybe someone that could replace Venom, although I do like what Venom does, the spreading of the debuffs, the ability blocks, being able to give them defense up. I do like what he's able to do, but just being able to get a character that can do something that could give them boosted damage. I find that typically the way that I'm able to get through some of the content is by throwing the offense down with Scream and then using AV to take that negative effect and flip it to a positive for the team to give them offense up. That's typically the only way that I'm able to really get through some of the content at times, but it does take a little while to be able to do that, and sometimes they could get one-shotted or killed before that happens. But still a top tier team. I also don't like their accessibility. That's one of the big things for me too. Venom, yes, he has a node. Carnage is in the War Store. The War Store is extremely crowded. Scream is in the Arena Store. I still think she's a 975 credit, right? Let me just double it there. 975 credits, still pretty high in my opinion for a cost here. AV, he's primarily in the premium orbs. Yes, you can get him from some other orbs too. You can get some mega orb. You can get some other shards in some other areas, but mega orb, premium orb, not great. And Symbiote Spider-Man, who's really the carrier of this team, you can only get him in the milestone 2 orbs, and he's at a lower drop rate because Emma's at the higher drop rate. So while yes, I still think, and they're my favorite team in the game, I still think that they're one of the most valuable teams just because of Doom raids, and they're the only option for Doom raids right now. And they're still good in Dark Dimension 3. They're still good in Dark Dimension 4. I think it would be better if their accessibility was if there was more access to these characters, and also if they just had a little bit more damage for the very late game content. But I'll digress from there. The next team on my list for me is going to be XFactor. And yes, I know they're a less versatile team, but I still think that they're largely important. Yes, they're primarily a war team now. I think that's where a lot of players are using them. But prior to that, Longshot and Shatterstar were options that you were using for your Doom raids, right? With your X-Men team. Longshot and Shatterstar were characters that you used in the Cosmic Node for Dark Dimension 4. So they're still viable outside. Like, at least Longshot and Shatterstar are still viable outside of War. It's just that you have better options now available to you that you're going to be using in other areas. But either way, they are a team that there are a top tier War offense team. I use them a lot right now. If you care about War, I use them a lot right now to counter Marauders teams. I use them to counter Doomhood by putting Rhino on this team so that he can flip those blinds. I mean, really, they're still a very, very strong team. And there's a few other teams that they can counter in War as well. So still very good. And even for the earlier game content too, once you get to the Doom campaign, chapter 1, you have the option. There's a section there where you can use Inhumans or you can use XFactor. This team, if you can get your hands on some of these characters, some of them are available to you earlier, like Polaris is available in Cosmic 1/6. I'm farming her a lot right now, trying to get her to 7 stars so I can eventually get an Adam Warlock at 7 stars. That's another thing too, right? This team unlocks a legendary character in Adam Warlock, so there is viability there. That makes them one of the most valuable teams in the game, is the fact that they also unlock a legendary character. Shatterstar is currently in the arena store. I know, crowded as heck. Longshot is in the War store, even more crowded, right? And Multiple Man is really the harder one to get to because he is in the Doom campaign. But I find that in Doom Chapter 1, these two characters worked quite well. If you can throw Polaris in there, then that helps as well. But for me, I still think that they're one of the top tier teams and one of the most valuable teams to invest into, because when you're looking at who to invest into, that's going to yield long-term dividends, right? It's going to be the XFactor teams. That's the reason why they're on this list for me. Next team on this list is a team that I talked about in another video on my channel here, and it is Shadowland. Once again, primarily a War team, and they're primarily a War team that needs a lot of tier 4 investments, but they are still top tier. They're still a top tier War offense team at the late game right now. They can counter a lot of different options in War. They counter most teams, actually, as a matter of fact, in War. And definitely for me, these three characters are the main characters: Moon Knight, Night Nurse, White Tiger. They're incredibly great. And they're one of the reasons why I actually have this team on this list right now is because of their recent accessibility options, right? So they become a very good, viable, free-to-play option for earlier players. White Tiger is currently now in the Blitz store. You have to open up Blitz orbs in order to be able to land shards for her, but you're probably going to be doing that anyways after you finish unlocking Gamora. So for me, this makes sense. Night Nurse, she has a very, very early node. I think she's like Villains Chapter 3-9, something that's very easy for you to get to. And Moon Knight is also in an earlier node too, in Cosmic 1/3, so fairly easy to get there as well. They're also Hero City characters, and one of the questions that I always get asked is, hey, what do I do when I get to Chapter 7? Goofy, who do I use for the Hero City section in Heroes Chapter 7? Well, this is one of your free-to-play options that you can use here to get through that content. Daredevil's in the arena store. I know it's kind of tough, but he is at a cheaper farm. I think he's 350 arena credits to be able to get him, so cheaper farm. And then Elektra, you get, as an earlier player, you get her for free, and you can get her access to her node pretty early too, because she's in Villains Chapter 1/3. So for me, and we talk challenges, right? You have your hero, your city challenge, your challenges where you specifically need city characters. They can do that as well. And then of course Block Party, where you can get those T3s, those T4s, that flash event every 2 months. They're also a pretty decent option there too. So while they're not necessarily like a top tier team outside of War, they are a usable team outside of that. And for the early game option, as an early game option, they are pretty viable in my opinion. Next team on my list here that I'm going to talk about is XForce. I think XForce is kind of now going to be a little bit more valuable to players because of the recent expansion of War teams. In my opinion, I do still think that XForce is probably one of the top tier War offense teams in the game. Outside of War, they are not great, but I do think that in War, they are pretty good. And with the expansion of those teams, where players are now probably going to need 12 teams to go 12 teams deep in War, I do think that XForce will kind of come back into the fold here. I actually held off on investing into XForce for quite a while. That's why my X-23 and my Negasonic are still currently right now at gear tier 12. A lot of these other characters are only at gear tier 12 because I just chose to work on some other teams. XFactor became more of an option. Shadowland became more of an option for me. So I decided to go in that direction. But I think with the recent expansion of these going to be needing these more war offense teams, that I do think that this is they're going to definitely come back into the fold. They're also a team that you can use to unlock legendary Doc Ock. Doc Ock is still, in my opinion, one of the best legendaries here in the game. Probably top 3 legendary, right? It's probably going to be what? Omega Red. It's going to be Adam Warlock. And then just because Adam Warlock is on the best team, and then it's either Jubilee or Doc Ock. And I think Doc Ock in a lot of ways provides a little bit more versatility than Jubilee does, although I do think that Jubilee is a great character. So for that reason, they show up on this list for me. If you care about war, this is more of a war thing. If you care about war, then this is going to be one of the more valuable teams to you, just because, once again, they unlock a legendary team. They're a top tier war offense team, in my opinion, at least top 10 war offense team. So definitely there's going to be some investment that's going to need to be here. I'm waiting on these last shards, man, for X23, so I can finally. I got a lot of Ultimus fragments here. I know I got to upgrade some characters to 7 stars, but listen, I'm not excited about. I don't do it unless I really need to, and I'm only gonna do this and then get more Ultimus fragments anyway. So I'm gonna get Ultimus orbs, and I'm gonna open up the orbs and get more Ultimus fragments. So whatever. But they're definitely on this list. And then the last team on the list for me here is going to be Wave 1 Avengers, and they're not a great team. They're not a great team by any means, but they are a great team. They're a great starter team, right? They're a good team that can get you going. Pretty much, basically, that's kind of what it is. Any beginner team, and I will say this right now, any beginner team is just that. They are a beginner team. You don't have to invest into a beginner team with the intention that you're going to invest into them later on in the game. You really don't have to do that. This team is so easy to get, man. You're going to accidentally, as a new player, you have a strike pass where you're going to get Black Widow and you're going to get Hawkeye. You have a login calendar where you're going to get Thor and you're going to get Captain America. Hulk, you're going to get through the achievements, right? They're an easy team to get. They're probably going to be your first full team that you're going to get if you're not spending money in Marvel Strike Force. So therefore, I think that they're still one of the most valuable teams in the game, at least for an early game. They also do have some mid to early game content viability as well. So for your Doom campaign, Chapter 1, if you want to get to that Negasonic node, they're actually, you have Wave 1 Avengers, you have Wave 1 Avengers, Shield, and Fantastic Four. You already got Wave 1 Avengers as a free team. They're a decent investment. Unfortunately, you got to bring them up to like 220, 250 or so, and you got to like throw the healer ISO on Thor, healer on Cap, healer on Hulk, and then of course Striker and Skirmisher, Striker on Black Widow, and then Skirmisher on Hawkeye to be able to get through that content like successfully. But either way, I do think that they become a solid option for me that I would definitely recommend as an early team. And they're also there's a node too. There's a couple of nodes in Doom Chapter 3, the Doom campaign Chapter 3, where you can use Avengers, Fantastic Four. If you already have Wave 1 Avengers, they're a good, decent option for you there as well. So early team, not a team that you're going to invest a ton of resources into for late game, but good enough to be able to get you through some of the early late game content, some other areas as well. Now, I do have some honorable mentions that I didn't throw on this list. I thought about Heroes for Hire. Heroes for Hire is actually a decent team. The problem with Heroes for Hire is that their accessibility sucks, right? Apart from Iron Fist and Luke Cage, what are you going to do? I know, War Defense Team, Goofy. War Defense Team, who cares about War Defense Team? Gamma Raids. If you're going to go up the middle lane, Misty Knight, Colleen Wing, Shang-Chi, Iron Fist, Luke Cage can get you through that Gamma Raid. If you don't care about it that much, if you're doing the outside lanes, then it's probably not as important to you, right? But either way, in my opinion, they're an honorable mention team. I don't think they're one of the most valuable teams, but they're an honorable mention team here. But you can't really reliably get Shang-Chi, Misty Knight, or Colleen Wing. Luke Cage and Iron Fist aren't that great outside of anything else. But if you do get Luke Cage, you get Iron Fist, and there's going to be at some point in time where Colleen, Misty, and Shang-Chi will be available, right? So I guess you can put them together on a team later on. So I definitely threw them as an honorable mention on this list. Black Order is also another one that has as an honorable mention as well. I still think that they're a top tier war offense team for me right now. I'm not really using them anywhere else. Ebony Maw has fallen off now with new warriors here. You can still use them as a legendary option for Dark Dimension 4 if you don't have some of the other characters here, or if you're not going to be able to get Omega Red. Proxima is actually a really nice little tune that I like too. Cole is okay. Corvus is okay. But and of course Thanos, right? There's still a good, like, I actually use them a lot to counter mercs in war right now. I actually there's some pretty big merc teams that I go against. This team is like 600k, 620k or something like that in war. Whatever, over 600k in war, and I'm seeing like some pretty big merc teams, so I do use them against them a lot. So they do have some viability there, but they're not a great option, and they're not as free to play, not easy free to play accessible, because you need another legendary to unlock Ebony Maw, and without having the full team, they're not that great. Sinister Six was also another option that I thought about as well. Once again, another early game villain team. They do have some viability once you get to Villains Chapter 7 to be able to get through some of that content, but largely this team is about Doc Ock. I don't really think that there's much else that you're doing with the rest of these characters. They can be challenging on war defense, but it's really about Doc Ock hard carrying the team. Rhino I'm using on my XFactor team against Doomhood right now, so that's the reason why he has some investment there. Their Skilletary, I thought about Flash Event, Black Widow later on from Wave 1 Avengers goes on the Skilletary team. If you're using it, if you're in care about those those trading mats, then Skilletary is a good option too. BH 2.0 if you care about war. Once again, kind of like a sneaky good cleanup, sort of sneaky matchup, kind of nuanced team there that you can use against some other matchups. So BH 2.0 goes there as well. And then I thought about Pimtech. I'm using them in the Gamma Raids right now, and you also need them to unlock Jubilee, so therefore they showed up for me on the list as a honorable mention. But guys, this is the list for me here. What other teams do you think probably should have made it to the list, or probably should have been mentioned in the honorable mentions here? Curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are, but these are the teams that I think are the most valuable teams in Marvel Strike Force, and the teams that you should definitely go about investing into, or try to put your resources into if you have any of these characters. But I appreciate you guys watching the video. Leave in the comments. We'd like to hear what you guys thought. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already to the channel. Check out my other links that are down below in the description. But until next time, guys, y'all be blessed. Y'all be safe. Woo! Oh yeah, baby. Yeah. Sinister Six are just in a weird place for me right now, aren't they? Yeah, they are. Wish they were better. Maybe we'll get the Sinister 9 team, Sinister 10 team. We'll see.